This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Oh, with Maria Taylor on location in Tampa, Florida. Ahmed Fareed keeping her seat warm, but it's no big deal. You know these guys. We got Jason Garrett, the coach, with me to my left. In the box once again, our Pro Football Talk insider, Mike Florio. Good to see you guys. Another good week of NFL football. Go figure, right? Let's go through some of the big storylines and big games in this one, and then we'll do our quick hitters at the end. Let's start with the Bills and Ravens, Coach, because here we go again. Ravens had a lead. We saw it against the Miami Dolphins earlier this year. We were able to blow that lead. What do you think about the Bills' comeback here this Sunday?
I thought it was great. Down 20-3, and it really was Josh Allen just kind of banging away, chipping away. They scored a touchdown right before half to make it 20-10, and it seemed like the momentum started to swing. You got to give the Bills' defense a lot of credit here. Hold Baltimore, who played awfully well on offense, to no points in the second half as Josh Allen and the offense kind of worked their way back into it. And at the end of the game, there was the big decision by Harbaugh when he's down in there close to go for it on fourth down. Didn't work out well for him, and then Buffalo took advantage.
What did you think of that decision?
You know, at the end of it, for me, I think you go ahead there. But John Harbaugh has made his living, and he's one of the best coaches in the NFL, making aggressive fourth down decisions, particularly with his quarterback. The biggest part of that decision was if the ball falls incomplete, Buffalo's backed up. He throws the interception, and all of a sudden Buffalo's got it on the 20, much more favorable drive start to go down and kick the go-ahead field goal.
Oftentimes on fourth down, you want to knock it down. That was one of the situations there where the interception gave him a little more field position. So, Mike, what do you give more credit to the Bills for coming back and Josh Allen in this game, or more blame to the Ravens for blowing it?
I think it's even. I think it's equal. There have been 4 games this year through 4 weeks where a lead of 17 or more points was blown. The Ravens have done half of them. 2 weeks ago against the Dolphins when they blew the 21-point fourth quarter lead, and now today when they were up 17. But for the Bills, first game they've won that was a single-score game since week 1 of last year. 0-7 since they lost at home to the Steelers in one-score games. They finally won a one-score game, and I think they need that. It's not going to be a blowout every week. At some point, they're going to come up against a tough opponent. At some point, they're going to have to dig deep. And at some point, they're going to have to find a way to win. And I think this is one of those, Coach, that can resonate into January because the playoff games aren't going to be easy. They're going to be tough fights. And you're used to showing up and blowing people out. But when it's close, you can't finish. They need to learn how to finish those close games. And I think today was a huge step toward the Bills believing that they can win close games.
Hey, Mike, let's go back to the 80s. I know you're a big basketball fan. Lakers, Celtics. Remember, the Lakers would win all these games by a huge margin. Then they get to the playoffs, and the Celtics would slow the game down. And it was hard for them to win those close games until when they won one of them, all of a sudden when they got back in those situations, mentally they were ready to do it again. I couldn't agree with you more. This is going to be really good for Buffalo going down the stretch because the games will be tight in the playoffs, as we all know. So, real credit to them to come back and win that ball game.
We were going through all the games, too, while we were watching them today, and we're like, oh, one-score game, one-score game, one-score game. And one of the late games here, the Green Bay Packers against the New England Patriots. New England, Mike, down to their third-string quarterback in this one. Brian Hoyer was knocked out of the game with a head injury, didn't return. Bailey Zappi, the rookie, came in. But the Patriots held tough with the Packers. Aaron Rodgers finally in overtime pulling it out. What was your big takeaway from that game, Mike?
Well, the most superficial and frivolous takeaway is, and I saw people talking about this on social media, I thought Bailey Zappi was Mac Jones. I thought Mac Jones was in the game. When I saw the close-up of Bailey Zappi in his helmet, he looks just like Mac Jones. Now, he didn't play like Mac Jones, and it came down to this. He became the first rookie in his debut at Lambeau Field to ever throw a touchdown pass. And I don't know how many times a rookie's had a chance to do that in his debut at Lambeau Field, but regardless, he's the first one in all these years to do it. But when you get the ball at midfield in overtime, after you forced the Packers to punt, and it was a bad punt, and the Patriots are in business, and they just got to string a first down or two together, that's your moment. That's your moment, and they go 3 and out. So encouraging that they have a guy who can get it done. But, boy, he really could have put everyone on notice and maybe staked his claim to surpassing Brian Hoyer on the depth chart if he could have found a way to win that game today.
Coach, what'd you make of the comeback? Now, we were doing this show called Football Night in America while this game was getting really good in overtime, so we saw plays here and there. But, the same story. Aaron Rodgers brings his team back and pulls one out. Yeah,
I agree with Mike in that Bailey Zappi, he looked comfortable out there. And he settled in through the touchdown pass. They moved the ball a little bit. He had an opportunity at the end. But, it's tough sledding. It's not easy to ask a rookie quarterback to go toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is truly one of the all-time greats. So Green Bay makes the big stop on third down. Aaron Rodgers gets another opportunity, and he makes the plays. And that's what Green Bay's been about for a long time. They had the ugly loss in week 1, but then when they get into their rhythm and Aaron Rodgers gets into his rhythm with these young receivers, they're going to be hard to beat. The throw to Dubs for the touchdown was a big play for them.
Yeah, Packers winning by 3 in that one. They improved to 3-1. They've won 3 in a row. Their next game is against the New York Giants, who are also 3-1. NFC East is looking like the power division, like we all predicted at the beginning of the year. Coach, let's talk about the Cowboys. Their 3rd straight win. They're doing it without Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush in this one. You like the balance as we're watching this game together. You think they're a more balanced team on offense, but really the thing that sticks out to you is how scary they are on defense.
Yeah, a lot to talk about with the Cowboys. Cooper Rush has been fantastic. I think Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, has been fantastic. The balance you talked about, they're handing the ball to Zeke, they're handing it to Pollard, they're taking pressure off of Coop. What happens is you get a lot of guys around the line of scrimmage, you get isolations outside. And CeeDee Lamb has made some plays. Noah Brown has made some plays. Michael Gallup is back. And then Cooper's been throwing the ball where he needs to. And he's been fantastic. The defense, by far the best part of this team right now, especially their front, they're just hard to block. They rush the quarterback so fast. You got a guy, Micah Parsons, who every time you break the huddle, you have to say, where is number 11? And you better put a couple guys on him because he's going to impact the game. And that opens up other opportunities. DeMarcus Lawrence playing as well as he had in the last 2 or 3 years. Other guys are making plays. They play fast. They play physical. They play with a relentless spirit, and it's contagious. And they're really playing like a good football team right now. There are challenges ahead, but they've handled the stretch really well.
Their opponent, the Commanders, Carson Wentz, was sacked 9 times the week before, only 2 times in this game, but was hit 11 times. So they were around the quarterback once again. That's going to be a theme for the Dallas Cowboys. Quarterback position, Dak Prescott. Will he even have a job when he comes back, Mike Florio?
Oh, look, he'll have a job. I know Jerry Jones likes to manufacture issues to attract more attention for the team, but when Dak Prescott's ready to go, he'll be back under center. Cooper Rush gets it. He understands it. He told me today that he believes he's shown enough to get a chance to play somewhere in the NFL, but there's no controversy, and he's not listening to any of the noise, even if some of it is coming from inside the house with Jerry Jones trying to whip up this idea of having a dilemma between Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott. But I do want to say this, and Ahmed, you deal with Sims, unfortunately, multiple times per week. and I know he's been on this, and I want to give him credit for it because I think it makes a ton of sense. Teams can get infatuated with and rely excessively on a franchise quarterback to just go out there and make things happen. And then the backup's in. And remember, Mike McCarthy said 3 weeks ago, we have to be smarter on offense with Cooper Rush. So they are smarter. They're more creative. They're more balanced. And it's working. So why not be smarter with the starter? Why rely on the starter to just show up and make it happen on his own? So if they can find a way to run the offense the way they're running it with Dak, when he does come back, they could be so much better and they could be a serious threat in the NFC.
Yeah, Coach, what's up with you guys doing that?
I believe very strongly in the word burden.
Yeah.
The best teams spread the burden around. The worst teams rely on, hey, go win it for us. And that's within a unit. Offense, if you can run it and throw it, you're spreading the burden around. You're making the quarterback's job easier. You're making the offensive line's job easier. If you're good on offense, good on defense, good in the kicking game, and not one area has to win for you, you're spreading the burden around. So it starts with the Cowboys' defense. They're taking the pressure off of everybody, but then the balance has really helped them.
Yeah.
One note on Dak and Coop. There's no bigger fan of Dak Prescott and no bigger supporter of Dak Prescott than Cooper Rush. And there's no bigger fan and supporter of Cooper Rush than Dak Prescott. These guys have a great relationship. You can see that when Dak's on the sidelines, how much he's pulling for Coop. And it's been a great marriage so far. Heck of a job by Cooper Rush winning these 3 games and keeping Cowboys in front.
Quarterback's playing really well in the NFC.
Let me add one thing.
Yeah.
Can I have one thing? I'm sorry to interrupt. I did ask Cooper Rush if he had a message for you, Coach Garrett, and I was hoping for something funny. I was hoping for something maybe a little snarky, but he said, number one, what's up? And number two, thanks for everything. So he's thinking of you as he turns his career into something that no one expected it could be.
He's been fantastic.
Do you want to give a message to Mike that he can pass on to Cooper Rush next time?
Yeah.
I don't have his
probably
number.
do that himself.
I think Coach has his number.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think Coach has his number.
I mentioned the NFC East. Daniel Jones has played really well for the Giants so far this year, although he's a little dinged up after that game. Philadelphia Eagles, the last undefeated team in the NFL. They win again. It was Jalen Hurts' show. The Jaguars got off to a lead. This is a Doug Peterson Bowl here back in Philadelphia. They did give him a standing ovation, which I was a little surprised about with those fans in Philly.
They booed Santa Claus in Philly.
They booed Santa Claus. You think the opposing coach, no matter what he had done for them, they would give him a hard time. No, but and the Jaguars were up 14-0 early, but it seems like this Eagles team really believes they can come back on any deficit.
Yeah, no one has played better than the Eagles for the first 4 weeks. And it goes back to what I was talking about before with Burden. Philadelphia is the most complete team in football. They can run it, they can throw it. They can throw it to different people. They run it different ways. And they play really sound defense. They get after the quarterback, and they cover on the back end. They're good in the kicking game. So they're spreading the burden around. They've played awfully well in all three areas, but nobody has this unnecessary pressure to play well. They play off of each other. And we saw that today. They're down 14. Pass rush comes alive. They take the ball away. All of a sudden, the offense gets rolling. They're running it. They're throwing it. They're awfully good.
Yeah, what stands out to you, Mike, most about the Eagles, last undefeated team in the NFL?
Well, I think what was encouraging today is it wasn't easy for the first time. They had the huge lead against the Lions week 1. They blew out the Vikings week 2. They rolled over the Commanders week 3. They finally encountered some real adversity down 14-0, and they still dominated by the time it was all said and done. I know the final score was a little closer than that, but it really felt like the Eagles were clearly the better team. They were patient. They knew it was a long game. They knew they'd get their chances. And they're just the most complete team, I think, right now in the NFL, Coach. Both sides of the ball, everything together. And you don't see a whole lot of great balance in today's NFL. They seem to me the most balanced team right now in the NFL.
Yeah, there's no question about it. You need to be balanced. The best teams are balanced. You got to find different ways to win, and they did that today. And if you think about how that pass rush gets after the quarterback, and, having been in that division for a long time, they've been so hard to block forever. Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, now they have Reddick. They just keep coming, and it just makes the opposing quarterback and the opposing offense uncomfortable the whole day, and certainly Trevor Lawrence was uncomfortable. He turned it over 5 times.
Yeah. You talk about the balance. The Jaguars were outrushed in this game, and the Jaguars have a pretty good rushing attack. They were outrushed in this game by the Eagles, 210-71. Miles Sanders, 134 yards on the ground. That was a career high for him. They can do it all, not to mention A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who I like a whole lot as a wide receiver for them. All right, some quick hitters now. The Steelers, perhaps it's the start of a new era. Coach, we'll start with you on this one. We saw Kenny Pickett, the only first-round quarterback from this past draft, come in the second half, taking over for Mitch Trubisky. Couple rushing touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the game for Kenny Pickett. Mike Tomlin has not said, it was a game that the Steelers lost to Zach Wilson and the Jets. He has not said who his starting quarterback is going to be. If you were Mike Tomlin, who would your starting quarterback be?
Yeah, I think Kenny Pickett would be the starting quarterback. It's interesting the approach they took. You could tell Coach Tomlin was trying to hold this decision off as much as he can to protect the rookie quarterback. But at halftime, they weren't doing anything. And he said, go, get in there. And we saw some sparks. This guy's got a presence about him. He looked comfortable. He looked like he owned the place. As the game went on, he made some mistakes. He turned the ball over. But I don't think you go back now. I think you say, okay, here we go. You make it about him. And again, I go back to this burden thing. You have to take some pressure off of him. It's hard for a rookie quarterback to step in and have to do it all. So I think you go with Pickett. I think you try to run the ball more and take some pressure off of him.
Mike, for you, the blank have had the most surprising start to the season this year.
Well, it's easy to say the Eagles, but we've already talked about the Eagles. I guess I would say the Dolphins, even though we've seen them lose on Thursday night. They are better than I thought they were going to be, and they've got issues, obviously, now at quarterback. But I didn't expect them to be as exciting and dynamic. I thought they were setting themselves up to fail. by going out there and going all in. It worked really well. And again, they've got issues to deal with, but they are 3-1, and they are looking pretty good. And even with Teddy Bridgewater, if he ends up playing for a few weeks, they could hold their own in the AFC.
How about the Broncos on the negative side? Mike, a lot of people were talking about them as instantly hitting the ground running with Russ Wilson.
And they got a short week. They play the Colts, and they still have 2 wins somehow. It feels like they shouldn't have won against the Texans, and they did. It feels like they shouldn't have won against the 49ers, and they did. So they'll find their groove. But, it's not nearly as immediate as Broncos fans were expecting, and they're starting to get impatient, I think.
All right, Coach, the Giants are 3-1. At 3-1, the Giants are blank.
The Giants are playing winning football, and they're mentally tough at the end of the game. They're benefiting greatly from the return of Saquon Barkley. Saquon has not been healthy for really 3 years. And this is the guy that we had to defend when I was coaching in Dallas. And the idea that we're going to stop him for a 2-yard gain, stop him for a 3-yard gain, stop him for a 4-yard gain, and then he catches a screen and goes 65 yards. That's what we've seen. Defenses have done a good job against him. They made it hard. Then all of a sudden he gets out into space and makes one of these plays. They've done a good job being patient, handing him the ball time and time again, and then moving Daniel. They have a hard time dropping back and throwing the ball. They don't protect well enough. But they're playing low-scoring games. They're playing to their defense. They're not making a lot of mistakes. And at crunch time, they're making the plays.
Mike, what's the latest with Daniel Jones? Came out of the game with an ankle injury. What can you tell us about him?
I'm told they're not going to know what his status is until late in the week. And, of course, Tyrod Taylor has the concussion. He's in the protocol. He won't be able to play until he passes all the clearances. Davis Webb's on the practice squad. And as I said during Football Night in America, and this is the truth, they are concerned that guys they may be interested in adding to the team may not have a passport because they're going to London to play the Packers next weekend. So that's one of the factors that usually, coach, isn't an issue when you're making your tryout list for Tuesday or Monday. Hey, do you have a passport? If you don't bother showing up.
Hey, Mike, I got to tell you, though, the passport thing's a layup compared to COVID, right?
Yeah,
hey, do you have a
true.
shot? Are you boosted? All that kind of stuff. So they've been down that road. They'll find somebody who's traveled internationally. But it looks like Davis Webb probably will be the quarterback for them. And the positive thing for Davis, he's been in the offense with Buffalo the last couple of years. So for a guy who hasn't played a whole lot, at least he has that going for him. But again, it's going to be about Saquon Barkley, handing him the ball, taking the pressure off the quarterback position.
It's a good point, though. The new head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll, coming over from Buffalo as the offensive coordinator there for years. Last one, Mike, I'll throw this one to you. The other New York quarterback, Zach Wilson, was blank in the Jets' comeback win.
Amazingly spectacular. That doesn't happen to the Steelers. Up 10 points in the fourth quarter at home in a game that they know they have to win because you got the Bills, the Bucks, the Eagles, and the Dolphins coming up the next 4 weeks. You got Murderers Row. You can't blow that game. And for Zach Wilson to do what he did after barely playing, it's something Sims was saying during the pregame show, barely playing in the preseason, come in and get it done and make it happen the way he did. All of a sudden, the Jets had that tour of the AFC North to start the season. They went 2-2, which no one expected they would do, winning at Cleveland and at Pittsburgh. And they had a very difficult and still have a very difficult first half of the season. But they steal some wins here. Schedule gets softer in the second half. AFC, very difficult to get one of the playoff berths, but they can be better than anybody thought they were this year.
Did he look like a franchise quarterback to you?
You saw a lot of glimpses of it. It was not good early in this game, but that's one of the things you look for in a quarterback. How does he handle adversity? Does he keep playing? Does he fight through it? And he certainly did that. Mike said it. They were down 10. They got the turnover. He drove them. He drove them again. He made a lot of big plays. We saw the highlights earlier tonight. He just has a presence about him. He has an instinct about him, and the ball really jumps out of his hand.
So many great games, so many great storylines. Each week that comes and goes, we go, this has got to be the best one. There's no way we top it. And then we do. What do we have in store for Week 5? Jason Garrett, Mike Florio. We'll be tracking you all week long. Pro Football Talk. I'm Ahmed Fareed. Maria will be in this seat next week. Don't worry, anyone.
Ahmed enjoyed it, man.
Don't panic. Me too.
Yeah, great to see you.
See you, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.